Hi. I actually didn't plan on coming on today, but I thought it would be a nice, you know, time to come on. I just finished giving a lecture and we had a nice little discussion about um, duty. And there's a couple things I want to talk about then about the duty of the, responsibility and duty. So I'm not surprised that Donald Trump was not convicted, right? So, like, I'm not going to be the one to talk, to call people names. But I will say this. I mean, I think we need to really do a hard pause in talking about, these duties and responsibilities of a presidency, right? And I think, I know that we want to talk about uh, how ridiculous things sound, right? And the ridiculousness of talking about country over individual liberty and how even maybe minorities believe too much in this idealistic notion of a country. I don't. I mean, and I understand all that, and I'm there in those. I can understand the framework. I am not upset by the connotation of it. I'm pretty well grounded in understanding why people struggle with this notion of country. But and I am there with talking about all of the struggles and believing that America is, America and its great many flaws. Yet, you know, as a political science professor, the thing that is important is we talk about basic framework. And I keep going back to the Federalist Papers, right? So the Federalist Papers specifically was trying to prevent the Civil War, which we know, and was trying to prevent um, the insurrection or even a Donald Trump, right? There was definitely a prevention, and it wasn't necessarily Donald Trump per se, but someone who was unwilling to put country before self-interest. And and I think that's a powerful uh, idea because in our heart we believe that you are voting for someone who has your self-interest, who has, if you believe that you're voting for somebody who would be doing something best for the country. But honestly, if you look at voting behavior, people really vote for who they believe is going to have their best interest at heart. And what that means is that you're voting for someone who's going to make decisions for the country in the best interest of the people before themselves. And we should see that Donald Trump's behavior is the exact opposite, which is why it's sometimes difficult to listen to Donald Trump supporters because he has violated the central premise of what it means to be president. We can even go back. I know he likes Andrew Jackson. We can go back to Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson and the infamous Trail of Tears. As horrific as that is, Andrew Jackson believed that he was making a decision for the best interest of the country by not handing Georgia over to the Cherokee Nation, um, and physically removing them. Cherokee Nation, the state of Georgia belongs to the Cherokee. The Supreme Court ruled. But the fact that um, Andrew Jackson denied them their property, denied them what they have argued and won, is a testament to that conversation of, why would Andrew Jackson deny them? In his mind, it wasn't for his person. He didn't gain anything from physically removing them. He felt that he was upholding country, however, as racist, as um, as white nationalist perspective as that is, right? But when you do an insurrection against the country, and when you put the lives of your congressional leaders and vice president at risk, and you make the decision to let it go on for hours without providing any, without answering the phone, and without providing any military aid, additional military aid, because the president can only allow the National Guard to come in. The mayor of Washington, D.C. does not have that power, which is an argument as to why people want to make Washington, D.C. a state. Because if it was a state, then they would have been able to respond to the Capitol. But it's not a state. And the president has that power. And the president made the decision to not respond. So then they called Maryland, the governor of Maryland, to bring in the National Guard. The governor of Maryland was like, we will bring the National Guard there. But let's go back to the Federalist Papers. Let's go back. A state cannot enter into another state without the permission of that governing structure. And in that point, it would be the president. The president blocked Maryland. The president blocked its own National Guard for helping for 3 hours. And if you have a president who is unwilling to uphold the basic framework of to protect the Union, then why do we have a president? And if you have a president who is unwilling to fulfill those basic requirements and then gets impeached, but cannot be convicted of an impeachment that in its framework is a failure to fulfill its mission, then what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? And that is where people, on this good Monday or Tuesday, I think it's Tuesday, on this good day, after a couple of days after, and when you analyze the failure, granted, the vote, I actually look at it as a positive that 57 senators voted for to convict the impeachment because that's the most we've had in history. Why it wasn't 100% when some of them could have died. Absolutely. Some of them could have died is a question that that scholars are going to be dealing with for quite some time in trying to explain how this happened, why there are no consequences, and I mean, and this is also another reason why we have to have a commission. Speaker Nancy Pelosi is like, we're going to have a commission. Now, part of the problem with the commission, though, is that if that commission doesn't investigate the funding, doesn't investigate the communication of congressional leaders who may have been involved, doesn't investigate the president and his level of involvement, and then takes the next step and say, okay, well, we have identified the correspondence, we've identified the funding sources, we've identified, all of these additional folks, and we're going to hand this over to the FBI or to a special prosecutor, then we have another issue because those congressional leaders also had a duty, a sworn duty to protect and to fulfill their responsibility to each other. Um, I know that I don't like to use the word constitutional crisis, but I think we're definitely in a moral crisis. And we're definitely in a space where we have to consider what's America? And we're in that space that we haven't quite been in for quite a long time. And I mean, I know that we have civil rights movements and I get all that. I'm not going to say that America's been the best place. I'm saying that uh, the basic framework, the minimum standard of making sure that your congressional leaders and your vice president, as much as we may not agree, we can agree to disagree, but I'm not trying to kill you. Like, and that is a pondery. That is a pondery. Politics is one thing, but killing people and harming people and putting people on the brink of being killed is a whole different entity. And I think that means that we do need to take this moment of reflection and to figure out what we are doing. Who are we? Dr. Greg Carr always says, who are we to each other? Um, and this is a reason why we can't let it go. Can't let it go. Can't let it go. Can't let it go and move on and heal because this has ramifications that we're not ready for. Long lasting ramifications. And what happens when a president can derelict his duty and ignore his sworn oath for personal perspective? What happens when you have a president who can put personal ambition before the country's good? What is that? What is that?